Hello, today's guest is Alison Pidgeon, MA, LPC, who is a licensed professional counselor and the owner of Move Forward Counseling in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. She employs 4 therapists and a virtual assistant in her women's issue-focused group practice. Once Alison was a director at a community mental health clinic, Alison took the brave leap into full-time private practice. What started out as a solo private practice quickly grew into a group practice. In her second year of business, Alison quadrupled her practice's gross profits and surpassed the 6-figure mark. Most of all, she was able to achieve this while operating a practice whose clientele is 95% insurance-based. Now, Alison has joined with Joe Sanok from Practice of the Practice, which how we were introduced, as a consultant for other private practice owners. She loves being an entrepreneur and helping others achieve their dream of being their own boss. Alison's specialties as a consultant include educating other clinicians about how to have an insurance-based practice and how to grow a solo practice to a group practice. In addition to her work as a counselor, Alison authors a regular column in a local lifestyle magazine. I'm going to try to say this, Susquehanna style. Did I say that right?
Susquehanna.
Susquehanna? Hannah?
Very
Okay.
close. Hannah.
Discussing issues related to mental health. She has also been featured on the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok and the Therapist Experience podcast. Hey, Alison, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing perfect. I'm doing great. So you're out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I appreciate you carving out time of your day to speak with our audience today.
Oh, I'm happy to. Thank you.
So I just want to dive straight into it and just hear a little bit about your story and background in terms of how you got into psychology and counseling and becoming a therapist.
Very good question. So when I was in undergrad, I took an intro to psychology class and I was just fascinated. And the woman who taught the class at the time was a doctoral student. And I just was really impressed with her and started working in her lab and just actually doing research on how infants learn language, which was interesting. And she was the one who really encouraged me to go to graduate school, which I had never thought about before. So that was kind of how I ended up becoming a counselor.
That's great. Yeah, I love hearing stories of just finding a mentor or someone that's inspired you. And it sounds like it was a general interest in the field as well. And, here we are now.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And so you made that brave leap, as you call it, into full-time, as we said, into full-time private practice. So how was that shift from obviously being a salaried employee, I imagine, at the community mental health clinic, being the director there. And then what was your decision to actually get into private practice and how was that process for you?
So the circumstances were not great at the time. I was very burned out. There was a lot of changes that were happening in the community mental health clinic, and it was, which I'm sure many people who work in healthcare can understand, like you keep getting more and more things piled on and you don't get any more resources. So I had, at the time, I had a young baby at home and I had a toddler and just wasn't getting sleep. And it was just like all the way around, it was like something has to give. And so, I just thought, maybe I can go into private practice and have some more flexibility with my time. And, as far as, childcare and not have to have my kids in daycare for so many hours a day. And so I couldn't kind of build up a side practice while being the director of the mental health clinic and having 2 little kids at home. So it was just like, I just have to quit and just jump in with both feet into the private practice, which obviously the circumstances for me, that made sense. Like if I had to go back and do it over, I'm not sure I would have done that, but it's worked out pretty well. So
yeah, there's always the argument, should you build a private practice while you have your full-time employment, either at night, on the weekends. Now you have the safety net. And then some people will argue that, hey, sometimes you just have to rip the Band-Aid off and just jump straight into the water.
Yeah. And I think that it has to do with your personality too. Like if you're okay with taking that risk, because it does feel very risky, then like, great. And other people can't tolerate that level of risk. So I think you have to know yourself and know how you're going to feel the most comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk to us a little bit. I know, we're going to get into the second year where you quadrupled your practice's gross profits, but how was that first year and, building up your practice in that first year? How was that transition for you and getting clients? What are some things that you did to stay afloat?
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time kind of researching and listening to podcasts and figuring out what I was doing because I had decided so quickly to leave the full-time job and start the practice, I hadn't really put a lot of time and energy into figuring out how is this all going to work, or like, how do you do marketing? I had no idea. So anytime I had downtime, that's what I was doing, trying to learn that. And it was a lot of trial and error, like making mistakes. For example, like putting a lot of money into one type of marketing that just didn't pan out. And now I know, but it's hard to see that money go down the drain at the same time. So, but I think that I wouldn't have known if I hadn't tried. So it's all a learning experience.
Yeah, that trial and error piece it can be difficult. Especially when there's money attached to it as well. You see the money kind of going down the drain and not getting that conversion or return on investment on the marketing efforts.
Right.
What were a couple of maybe one or two things that really did work for you? So I'm hearing that a couple of things didn't work out, but what were some, I guess, aha moments when the marketing really did take off in your business?
I definitely think any kind of networking that you can do, whether it's with other therapists or doctors or just other business people, is so valuable because especially with therapy, I feel like they sort of want to like get to know you before they feel comfortable referring people to you. So if they can even have a short conversation with you just to see like, oh, Allison's really nice and I could totally feel comfortable sending my patients to her, like that's, such a valuable way to spend your time to get clients, I think.
Absolutely. And so now let's get into the second year. I want to hear, what was the big transition there, or what happened? I mean, you quadrupled your practice's gross profits, and it's just the second year of business. So, I mean, what was the takeoff point for you in your business?
So about 6 months in, I decided I wanted to do a group practice, and I hired someone that unfortunately only could take self-pay for a while. And we really sort of floundered trying to get her clients, and we didn't ever get much traction with getting her clients. And then I still had space in the office to add another person. So I was lucky enough to add another person. I think it was about a year ago, the beginning of March of 2016. And then she decided she wanted to work for me full time. So as she was sort of slowly leaving her full-time job, she was adding more hours at my practice. And it was like very quickly, we were hitting all these milestones with the amount of income that was coming in. And I still only was operating out of one office. So I hadn't really, increased my expenses that much. And we were bringing in a whole lot more money just because we were filling this all the time we had in the existing office. Mm-hmm. So then I thought, like, this is great. I want to keep expanding. So fortunately, a office suite down the hall in the same building opened up. And so we have two offices, and we have a kind of a break room that doubles as an administrative office and our own bathroom. And there's a separate door, so it's nice and private. And so we moved down there, and before we moved there, I hired two more people to fill all the available hours that we have in the two offices. So that's, just from hiring contractors is how we grew by 400%.
I see. Okay. So you're hiring contractors. So they're 1099 employees where they're not W-2'd. So you didn't have to worry about the payroll taxes, things like that. They
Right.
almost were like entrepreneurs themselves. They're building their practice, but they're working, I don't want to say under you, but they're working collectively. And, obviously you are taking care of the office expenses, things like that. Is that right?
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Okay. And so I know this is a hot topic of debate, but insurance panels and being an insurance-based business, doing 95 of your business, through insurance. And I know a lot of therapists out there want to bang their head against the walls when they even think about insurance. And, they just go through a lot of tough times with insurance. So talk to us a little bit about the decision to become insurance-based and how you've been able to maintain that and also be profitable and have a thriving practice.
What's funny about that is I never realized that you could be self-pay. Like coming from community mental health, I just assumed like, oh, everybody takes insurance. That's just what you do. So I, changed over all my panels to my new practice when I left community mental health and realized very quickly that that was probably a mistake to accept every single panel that I had been paneled on because some of them just aren't worth it. And then, I had some other friends who were in private practice who kind of showed me the ropes. Like, I didn't even know how to fill out a claim form. I didn't have a clue. And literally, like, I had a friend who we did supervision for more of like the billing business end of things. And we would go over like, I would submit a claim and something was wrong and I didn't know what. And so I'd take it in and I'd say, what, I don't understand what I did wrong, like, why did this get rejected? And she would help me with it. So, really it was just like making a million mistakes to figure out what
Yes.
went wrong. Which, part of what I'm doing now is to help other therapists to not hopefully have to go through all those really frustrating mistakes. Like, there was a point at which like I had maybe 5 months worth of claims held up for like 3, 4 months.
Wow. Uh-huh.
Like talk about wanting to pull your hair out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you're just like, that's income that you're not getting when you're expecting you should be getting it. And yeah. So I just think that, I just kept asking lots of questions and kept calling the insurance company to say, why did this get rejected? And just through that whole process, you just learn the ropes.
I see. Yeah. So just learning through going through the mistakes, and sounds like you are now shortening or trying to shorten the learning curve for therapists out there so that they don't have to bang their head against the wall so much. So helping them, get on, add in insurance-based, pay into the practice. And, how do you choose the right panels? So there's so many panels out there in all these different communities. Is it just, do you just start with the panel and then if it doesn't work out, do you phase that out? Or, how do you determine which panels to actually be a part of, insurance panels in your community? How'd you do that?
So I think if I were to do it over, I would have talked to the other colleagues that I had who were in private practice already to say like, hey, which insurance company pays well? Which one is the easiest to deal with? Which one is the worst to deal with? Which one is, not even worth it because they don't pay enough? Like, get a really good idea of, because I think everything is so localized that, the insurance that pays the best in California is probably not the same insurance that pays the best in Pennsylvania. So definitely asking those therapists around you to kind of give you the lowdown on those insurances. And I think, for me, it just became, not even worth it to get paid such a low rate. I know sometimes people say, well, some money is better than no money, but some of the insurance companies pay so little that you're maybe not even breaking even on like covering your expenses. And so I feel like it's not fair to me as a business owner
Sure.
to not make a profit on a session just because that's what the insurance company wants to pay.
So gathering information in each individual community, talking to other therapists about which of the insurance panels maybe pay a little bit more, because you have to pay the bills and you have to take care of yourself as well as a therapist. So making sure that you don't just choose the panels that, they're going to pay a little bit, but you're going to be, working for pennies, right? So, not
Right.
literally, but so just choosing that, finding in the community, each insurance panel will be different in each community. So that's great. That's
Right.
great information as well. Let's back up a little bit because I want to know a little bit more about going from solo practice to group practice, because I know that you help therapists consult in making that leap as well. And so we talked a little bit about hiring them as contracted workers rather than payroll. So you probably save some headache there as well. What are some other strategies you would do to move from a solo practice to a group practice and starting adding some team members to a practice?
I think one really important thing that not many people think about is that you have to have really clear processes set up in your business because you want to have your employees come in and know exactly what to do. So for example, I have a virtual assistant. When I hired her, I literally wrote out every single step of when you answer the phone and, someone asked this question, this is the answer, or when they ask this question, like direct them here, or this is how you schedule them, like literally like step by step by step. So that way, if she knows exactly what to do. If she's ever out and someone has to fill in for her, they know exactly what to do. And I think if you have those processes set up, that's going to be really important in, you not as the owner, not having to be involved in every single little detail of what happens in your practice. And it can just sort of run efficiently without you there.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah. So virtual assistants, for those of you listening out there that are not sure what that is, maybe it's the first time you heard about that. That is someone that can help your business that is not physically located in your office. And how did you, Alison, how did you find your virtual assistant? Is she, was it through a website? Was it somebody local? But tell us a little bit about how you decide to hire a virtual assistant, and maybe what are some other tasks that he or she does?
So I actually just posted an ad on social media
Mm-hmm.
and kind of give a brief description of what I was looking for. And actually, the assistant I hired is a stay-at-home mom who wanted to be able to do some part-time work without having to put her kids in daycare. So it's perfect for her because she can still be at home with her kids and answer the phone when the phone rings. So she also, because before she had children, she was a professional writer. So she does some writing for me as far as like blog posts. She does all my social media. She does an awesome job finding things to post on our business page. She also enters all of the information from the EOBs into our system, the explanation of benefits from the insurance. So she takes the initial phone calls when people call. So she does a lot of different things.
Where is she located? Just curious.
Yeah, so she's actually just like lives in the next town over.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so she does come into the office maybe like a couple hours a week because we have to have paper scanned we have an electronic health record. So
Okay.
sometimes we have to have paper scanned into the record. So she comes in and does that. But for the most part, she's at home.
I see. Yeah. So she can stay at home and watch kids. That's great. So match. It sounds like it's a good match for the company
Yes.
and for her as well.
Yeah.
So I do want to try something different since we are talking about making mistakes and learning from our mistakes. So I do want to add in what I've been going to be calling the lightning round of questions here. So it's just a few questions. I'll just kind of go, ask you a few questions. So first lightning round question: if your personal opinion, should you specialize as a therapist, or should you focus on, or just be a generalist? What is your opinions on that?
Yes, I think I found the more I have niched down, the more attention and the more clients that we have gotten. So definitely specialize.
Okay. Favorite technology tool that you've been using for your practice?
We use an electronic health record called Theranest, which I highly recommend. It is totally the backbone of everything that we do.
Okay. Favorite business book that you've read?
Favorite business book. I'll tell you what the latest one is that I read. If you've ever heard of Tara Gentile, she's a business strategist. She has a book called Quiet Power Strategy, and I think it could be applicable to any counselor who's in private practice.
One tip to get over the mental blocks of marketing yourself.
People need you and they need your services. And so think about how much, if you're talking to the right people, they're going to appreciate the fact that you've shared about what you can offer.
Awesome. So that ends our lightning round. Again, we're going to try that out, see how that goes. And you're off the hot seat, Alison.
I made it.
Yeah. So thanks for that information. And so, Alison, what are some ways that our audience can connect with you and work with you?
So I am doing consulting with Joe Sanok from Practice of the Practice. He was kind enough to take a chance on me to become a business consultant. So I have my own page on his website, practiceofthepractice.com. And I'm also have a free giveaway on the website right now. If you are looking to start a group practice, I have a pre-launch checklist that you can download. And so that's at practiceofthepractice.com/group practice.
Awesome. Okay. And I'll put all that in the show notes as well so they can go get that free giveaway. So head on over to the website. And Joe's been a guest. He was episode 4 on this podcast. And again, he introduced us. So I'm grateful to Joe for that. Alison, thank you so much for your time and just sharing your journey. I truly appreciate it. I know the audience got a lot of value out of it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.